everybody, it's Allison. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at a fun technique that I haven't done in a while, and that is distress oxides on glossy paper. So I have a couple of cards that use that technique, and I have a few other cards that I'm going to share because it's been a while since I've shared anything on YouTube. And there's been a lot going on this month, a lot of fun collections from Spellbinders. So we're going to get started with the glossy paper. This paper here is from Ranger. This is an old pack, and this is from Simon Says Stamp. I'm not sure that the Ranger glossy paper is still available, and I am going to use the Simon paper. So I'm going to cut these into A2 sized panels. Now I have my glass craft mat from Glassboard Studio. And I'm using this non-stick mat from Tim Holtz. This is for his glass media mat. It is sold separately, and I like to use it when I do ink smushing, which is what we are about to do. All right, now we're going to start the first background with mustard seed, and I'm smushing the ink onto the mat, spritzing with a little bit of water. And I like to take my fingers and kind of just spread that out so that I don't smush on square shapes onto my paper. And I'm just smushing it on there. And I have my heat tool from Ranger, and I am going to dry it all the way. I'm not going to show you all the drying, but this is completely dry now. I'm now coming in with Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm going to smush. Now, the importance of drying every single layer before adding more ink is that you'll see when I added the pink to the yellow, you don't see orange. And that's because once you heat it, it sets into this glossy paper. And here I'm coming in with blue. And again, when I heat it, you'll see that I'm not making purple where it touches the pink, and I'm not making green where it touches the yellow. Now, sometimes it can happen if you don't dry it all the way, or if you just go crazy and you keep adding colors. And here you can see that I'm adding a lot of layers. And the fun thing about this technique is the layers. You'll see at the end how it all comes together, but the more layers you add, the more fun it is, I think. Now this has a lot of layers, and I keep coming back in with kind of the same colors, the blues, yellows, and pinks. And I have all the colors at the top of the screen for what I was using. And again, being very careful to dry the panel between each layer. Now here I came in with more yellow. I kind of regretted it because it was a lot of yellow at the end, and I kind of lost some of the blue. But that's okay, you know? It's just paper, and these are just really fun to play with and see what you get. All right, I'm trying to come in with more salvage patina because I know that I had added a lot of yellow. Now here's where the magic happens. This is Distress Micro Glaze. And these mini ink tools from Ranger fit right into the little bottle. And you only need a little bit of this glaze, but look what happens when you wipe this glaze across the panel. It brings out all of the layers, and it makes it way more vibrant. Before you add that microglaze, it's very chalky, and it's very hard to tell what the final panel is going to look like. So this particular panel I'm saving for my next video because we're going to try stamping on this. I'm going to use a fun new stamp set from Spellbinders, so hopefully I'll have that video ready for this weekend. Fingers crossed. I'm going to show you a few more panels that I made, but I'm not going to show the actual ink smushing. So this one used 4 colors of purples and blues. And again, I'll show you what happens when you add the microglaze. Now, when you add the microglaze, you need to come in with a paper towel or a cloth and just buff off the extra microglaze. And this just sets it So those colors will not move now. Now this is kind of a crazy background, but look what happens when you just add a die to it. This is an old die from Mama Elephant. I think that would make a really fun Halloween card, so I'll probably finish that sometime this month. Well, I need to finish it soon because it's almost Halloween. All right, this panel is probably my favorite, and here are the 3 colors that I used. And I tried very hard not to go overboard with this one because I wanted all 3 colors to really be prevalent. You know, I didn't want the yellow overtaking it like happened on the last one. So this is probably my favorite panel that I made. Same technique as that first one. I just, you know, this video would be so long if I showed all of the ink smushing for all these panels. All right, so there it is after buffing all the microglaze off, and I love it. Now I'm going to show you something else that you can do with this white glossy cardstock. It is great for embossing. This is the new Streamline 3D folder from the new Season's Greetings collection from Simon Hurley and Spellbinders that just came out. And here is a card that I made with that background along with the embossed background. The snow border is from the Season's Greetings collection. The die set is called Hit the Slopes, and there are skiers as well if you like skiing over snowboarding. There's also a fun set of sentiments. These are press plates, and I foiled this press plate sentiment with white foil. And I love this background with the Distress Oxides. I just think it's so beautiful. All right, before we move on to another Oxide background, I'm going to show you another card with that Season's Greetings collection. We are back with the glass mat from Glassboard Studio. I know I've talked about this before, but here's this big light, this lighting issue, and that's why I don't use my big white glass mat in my videos, but it is next to me in a different workstation. And I just wanted to show you these 2 products that just released from Glassboard Studio. These are accessories for their glass mats, and I will include a code below where you can get 20% off any product on their website. This is the new MagInk tray. You can see there's a magnet on the back of it, and there's also a funnel in one of the corners, which makes it useful for using gems, and then you can pour the gems back in their container. But today I'm going to use it to hold an ink pad. Now, because the glass mat is magnetic, this tray is not going anywhere. You saw me trying to push it with my finger, but the magnet is holding it in place. So it's perfect for holding an ink pad. Now, this is the Snowfall Shimmer BetterPress plate. This came out maybe this summer. I hot foiled it with Cobalt foil. I do have a bit of over foiling here, which can happen, especially with a big plate like this, but I have found a really easy way to remove that, and that is with my adhesive eraser. It's only going to remove the foil on the surface of the paper. The foil design itself is kind of pressed into the paper by the press plate, so by lightly going over the surface with the eraser, it won't remove anything that should be there. So it's only going to remove what shouldn't be there. And I love this press plate. I've gotten a lot of use out of this plate. All right, now I am using PinkFresh Studio Ink today, and I'm starting with Blue Jay. And remember, the great thing about foil is that it resists ink, so I can ink this up. And I'm just trying to get kind of darker at the top. And the great thing about using glass is when there's ink on the glass, you can just wipe it up with your brush and use it again. So you don't really lose the ink that's on the glass. You just kind of wipe it up with your brush. This is now Storm, so I'm just going to keep getting darker, and I'll put the darker colors towards the top. And now I'm going to come in with Stargazer. I'm coming in with a smaller brush because I really only want this at the top. Now I did come in later with black soot at the top. I'm not showing that in the video, just to make it a little bit darker. Now I mentioned before that the foil resists ink, but you still need to come in afterwards to wipe the ink off the foil. And I just use my lint-free cloth for that. All right, now here is the Ski Lodge die set. Again, part of that Skisms Greetings collection. And here are the CraftCatcher trays. So I just got these, like yesterday I got these. So I've only started playing with them. There is a lip on these that slides under the glass mat. And so here, there's 3 sizes. They come as a set of 3. And I'm just going to put all 3 of these around my mat. Since I just got these, I'm kind of just playing around to see how I want to use them. So going forward, I'm sure I'll figure out how I want to use them. Now I'm putting all of the dies that are in this set in the tray on the left. I am always losing stuff. So containing these dies in one place while I'm using the set is very helpful. I know that in my videos it looks like my space is always clean and organized, but trust me, I am a hot mess. I spend more time looking for things than I do crafting. Now I've brought that MagInk tray back so that I can ink blend some of the die cuts for the Ski Lodge. I'm starting with craft colored cardstock for most of the elements, and I'm using dough ink from PinkFresh Studio. I'm not going to show all of the ink blending. It's all pretty basic stuff that you see me do a lot. All right, now I'm coming in with a bunch of little elements that I die cut. And I'm going to separate them by putting the actual die cuts in the tray at the top of the screen and the trash in the large tray on the right. I can't tell you how often I accidentally throw out small die cuts because they get mixed in the trash. So this I find helpful. Now, will I have all 3 trays surrounding my glass board every time I craft? I don't know. This is my first time using these trays. And like I said, I'll figure it out as I go along, but I find them really helpful. And I'm just quickly showing the elements of this lodge because I'm not going to show the actual assembly. There are a couple other pieces that I still need to cut. There's also a tree in this set, which I also used on that card with the snow border that I showed you earlier. And I love anything with an A-frame cabin. It reminds me of camp. Now here I am cleaning some of the little hairs off my die cuts with my craft pick. I don't often show this in my videos, but I do this all the time. And here you can see that I can just sweep those little hairs right into this tray. And then I can just pick that tray up and throw everything into the trash. Now for a sentiment, I'm using the October clear stamp of the month. And I found the perfect sentiment for this card. So I'm just kind of figuring out where I want it. I had cut a white panel with one of the I think it's called landscape edges, just to act as snow. Now I did want to show you this little die that makes the railing, has these 2 longer pieces that are, I guess, supposed to come down further. I just turned those off. Now, while I was playing around with these trays, I found another useful way to use the MagInk tray. Because it has a magnet, it's a great place to keep little dies that you're using. So just another way to prevent things from getting lost. I should probably put my scissors, my craft pick, my tweezers, everything else that I lose pretty much every second of the day. Now here's the final card, and I just love it, again, because A-frame cabins remind me of camp, and I would love to be in there next to a nice warm fire right now. All right, let's take a look at another card that uses Distress Oxides on glossy paper. I'm going to make a quick background here. This isn't the one that I used for the card. I made that particular one last month and didn't film it. But for this one and the one I used on the card, I did more of a swiping motion versus a smushing motion. And I also, for the most part, kept the 2 colors separate. Now this would make a pretty background, but it would also be great for die cutting. And here you see me going back in to get more of that pink that is still on the mat. I had already heat set the first layer and then I went back in. I didn't show that on the earlier one, but I do often do that. I do often go back in because that's when you get a lot of those little dots and texture that are so great. Okay, so here's my second color, and I'm just doing this background really quick, so just to show you that you don't have to go crazy with these backgrounds with tons of layers. These would just be really nice for die cutting, and I'm going to show you on my card how I do that. Now this is a Fountain Wishes die set from the Happier Hour collection that came out earlier this month, and it's all about ice cream. Now here's the background that I made last month. I used mustard seed and picked raspberry, and you can see it's similar to the one I just did. It's just a bit more saturated. But all of the swirls and movement is going to work perfectly to make this. I don't know what it is. Is it a milkshake? Whatever it is, it has ice cream, and that's all that matters. Ice cream is my vice. It always has been, next to Reese's peanut butter cups or pretty much Reese's anything. I'm digressing thinking about ice cream. But here you can see I cut all these ice cream pieces from that background. Now this is the Fountain Wishes Sentiments press plate, and I'm going to show you how you can just foil one if you just want to do one. So I'm just putting on a scrap of paper with a scrap of white foil, and even the die, even though it cuts out all the sentiments at once, you can still just use it to cut out one sentiment. All right, so there's the sentiment. And I apologize for not showing the assembly of all these cards. It's just been a long month, a lot of cards that I haven't been sharing, so I'm just throwing them all in here so you can see them. Now I'm going to quickly show you this card because it also uses the Happier Hour collection, even if it's not obvious. I have this cute snowman that is from the North Pole Sentiment set that came out a few months ago. Now the sombrero comes from the Sip Ole Die Set, and that is what is part of the Happier Hour set. I just thought it would be cute to pair that with the new Feliz Navidad sentiment. By the way, there are several international sentiment sets that came out earlier this month, not just Spanish. And I thought it would be cute just to make this scene look like an old stamp. So I use, I think it's called nested postage, to make that stamp shape. And look how cute. Now speaking of cute, check out the little avocado. Now the little avocado also comes from the Sip Ole set. It does not come with a face. I had to add a little face because I just think little stuffed avocados are adorable. I actually have I have a little stuffed avocado ornament for our Christmas tree, and he makes me smile every time I pass by. So this little snowman is so happy. Now I'll show you how I made the little face. This is the Let It Snow sign from the same set as the snowman. And when you cut it, the letters fall out, and you actually use the negative piece for the sentiment. But when the O falls out, it comes out as two pieces. And I used one of those pieces for the smile. So, you know, it's fun to get creative with your dies. I love it, and I think this is adorable. And by the way, the background is just patterned paper. This was from Stampendous. I think it used to be sold on the Spellbinders website, but there's so much patterned paper out there now that have scenes that you can create quick cards with. So, okay, one last card to show you. Once I made that little avocado for the previous card, I had to put some arms and legs on him, and he is joining some friends from the Bon Appetito collection, again, that came out earlier this month. And I just think this is so fun. I've had so much fun with that collection. And that is it. I know I threw a lot into this video because I haven't been here in a while. I've just been actually trying to take a little bit of personal time away from the craft room, and I'm easing back in. So again, I mentioned that I hope to be back this weekend with a video showing how to use that crazy yellowed oxide background that we made at the beginning of this video. So I hope you'll join me then, and I will see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.